Alright, hopefully this footage doesn't come out too bad. I mean, we're dealing with a heavy sun glare as we're driving south on the Garden State Parkway, so hopefully it's not that bad. Otherwise, you have to use a lot of B-roll or something, or get really creative with the editing when it comes to something. I thought I'd do something a little different. Usually I just post short form videos on the YouTube channel. And by the way, if you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, Jared Moore Poker, if you've ever liked one of my shorts or left a comment or interacted with any content that I've made in general, I really appreciate it. Even though I don't really comment on the comments about what is usually my lousy play, I do read them. I am aware of what people are saying, and I am aware of everything that's going on, but in all seriousness, I do appreciate it, as this has been a little side project of mine over the last year plus, that we have turned from nothing to 500 something subscribers. So I mean, that's pretty cool. And I'm not exactly what's her face, Livy Dunn, when it comes to dealing with like social media and building a following and stuff like that. But everybody starts somewhere, right? And I think it's pretty cool in the last year that we've turned a nothing channel and a stupid little side project into 500 plus subscribers. So I really appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch and all that sort of stuff. So we are currently en route to the Borgata in Atlantic City for day 2 of the Almighty Million. And keywords there being day 2, as that naturally implies that we went to day 1 and managed to survive. So I figure I'd talk a little bit about that whole strategy, and not even so much the strategy, but just that whole experience, and then coming back for day 2 3 days later. So I went down there on Tuesday for day 1A, and was fortunate enough to find a bag at the end of the night for $695,000 in chips, which is, when we come back, I think blinds are $15,000 and $25,000. So we're gonna have just under 28 big blinds, if I'm mathing correctly. So certainly a playable stack, and we're not really feeling pressure to do anything immediately. So we'll kind of see where it goes. I went down there on Tuesday. A bunch of the guys that I play against regularly, many of which have been featured in my videos, but you wouldn't really know who they are, because they, I have a whole thing about not putting anyone on camera in my videos, because people get nervous, or some people just don't like being taped, especially without their consent. And it's one of those things where when I make those shorts, I make an effort to sort of respect that when it comes to other players who might not necessarily want to be on tape. So you may have noticed this over the years, over the last year, where when I'm recording these shorts, I'm heads looking down at the table. I blur out faces. I don't go crazy, with like change anyone's voice or anything like that. Like it's, like a whistleblower interview with NBC News or something. But I do make an effort to try to respect other players' privacy, because we are playing. It's a friendly game. We play against each other all the time. I'm not really looking to put other people on blast or on the internet or that sort of thing. So, anyways, we went down there on Tuesday, and there were a few of the players who I play regularly with also made the trip down there. And fortunately for all of us, we're all sat at different tables, which is nice. You don't want to, I guess there would have been nice to have a little bit of familiarity with somebody at the table, but On the other hand, it's also really awkward when you're playing in a tournament like that, and you're playing against somebody and at the end of the day, like, we're all friends, we're all like pulling for each other, and we all want to do well, and we're pulling for each other to try to go deep. And unfortunately for the rest of the group, the only person out of the entire group, as far as I know, that made it all the way to day 2 would be myself, which I'm incredibly thankful and fortunate for that to have happened with. I don't know if any of them wind up going back and playing a different day 2. I would guess probably not, at like $400 a pop for the Almighty Millions, but they gained so many entries over the course of the last, the second day and the third day particularly, where they're going to wind up getting 4,600, 4,700 entries in this tournament, which is pretty cool. I'm sure they blew past the $1 million guarantee by now. And all right, if you have 4,700 entries, that means they're probably paying top 10%, and 10% of 4,700 is 470. So I don't know exactly how many players are returning for day 2. I would guess probably somewhere between 700 and 800. I mean, I checked Poker.org before getting in the car to try to drive down here and see if the C2 seating assignments were up yet, which of course they weren't, and also if the chip counts, the chip results, the day 1E and 1F results from the Almighty Millions were posted yet, and those weren't up to date yet either. So, and that's not a knock on Poker.org. It's just, I'm checking this at 7 in the morning before driving down to Atlantic City for the second time in 4 days. So hopefully by the time we get there, at least that information will be up. Hopefully we'll also get the information in regards to like who's at our table. I don't know how much I can really do with that information, because when you're playing these sort of tournaments, you're getting what I would call like the lower stakes pros. Like it's people who play like these, like the Borgata Winter Open, and they'll play like all the live Philly tournaments, and any of these circuits. I mean, I'm sure they play WSOP circuit events and stuff like that as well, where they have the bankroll to sort of sustain that. I'm more of a recreational player, so I don't really have the bankroll to quote unquote tour, for lack of a better term. But yeah, it's kind of is what it is. But I mean, I guess at the very least we can check and see who's at our table, and see who's on Hendon Mob, and see who's made $100,000 in career earnings or something, and we can at least see what the chip stacks are. And I would guess with 695,000 we're probably slightly above average, but there'll be a big stack or two at our table, I'm sure, and I'm sure there'll be a couple small stacks at our table. The tournament will do what they do to balance it out, I guess, the best they can, and they'll figure that out. So I can't really worry about any of that stuff, I guess, is ultimately my point. All I can really worry about is my approach and how I'm gonna play day 2, and I guess that really raises the question, well, how am I gonna approach day 2? And I've thought a little bit about it, and I think the best way for me to do it is just be a little tight to start the day, and then kind of see where it goes from there, because obviously we don't know any of the players that we're going to be playing with at this table, so kind of have to deal with that, kind of see at the table who's being aggressive, who's being a little more conservative with their chips, and sort of play the player a little bit, I guess, for lack of a better term. So we could do a little bit of that. With roughly 28 bigs, we're not in critical, DEFCON 5 status, where, the second we get ace jack, we got to get it in or anything like that. You know, we don't have to get uber aggressive like that, but you know, we are going to take our shots to try to double up, because you know, it's not like we're going to be able to fold to the money, I don't think. Even though I expect probably a lot of the short stacks to probably, you know, eliminate themselves in the first, I don't know, couple levels of play today, but I can't really worry about that. So we'll just try to pick our spots the best we can, and I think that's similar to how we approached the tournament on Tuesday when we played. So a little backstory there. The starting stack for this tournament was 100,000 in chips, and blind started 300, 500. So you know, you still start pretty deep, and you're very playable. So we get through the first 4 levels. I'm at around 115k at the first break, so it's like fine. You know, we're up and down a little bit, but we're doing okay. And then shortly after the break, I wind up calling off 60% of my stack with Queen 10 against King King on a Queen 4, 7, 6 deuce board or something like that. You know, something like that, where just got it in and lost to an overpair and lost a big chunk of my stack right there. And you know, one of those spots where I thought the other guy was playing a little loose, and he got the better of me there. So I got a little short stack, but then I got moved, and we just sort of spent the rest of the day battling. And even though like we're battling, like never really got into any spots where I was really at risk of busting, if that makes sense. Because even with like 40,000 in chips, you know, when blinds are 1,000 and 2,000, you know, and you have 40,000 in chips, it's still plenty playable. And you know, you can, you know, especially with 30-minute levels, you can wait and pick, you know, until you pick up a good hand and, you know, get it in then. And you know, slowly built the stack back up, slowly got back over to 100, and then 100 becomes 200, and you know, the last levels of the tournament on Tuesday is really like when I started like spinning it up to, you know, almost 700,000, when, you know, blinds got to be, I don't know, 510, 10, 20, 25, 5,000, you know, stuff like that. So it is what it is. The only hand that we were really at risk of busting, we got it poorly once with ace-8 against queens, where there was 5 to a flush on the board, so we got bailed out on that one, which was very nice to see. I'm hoping I can get the footage from that from one player that was at our table who was making content. I actually sent her a DM yesterday, just being like, hey, I'm the big fat guy who's sitting there, and here's what happened, and blah 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 blah, and hopefully she'll acquiesce and send the video over, but we'll see what it is. So yeah, we're on our way to day 2, and hopefully we run well. I really don't know what to expect. We have packed an overnight bag just in case. I'm not naive enough to think I'll actually make the final table, but hey, if I make the final table, that's certainly you know, certainly be the biggest score of my poker playing career. And even I don't even want to say even a min cash here, but even doing, you know, like a top 100 finish in this tournament would be doing pretty damn well. So sort of just approaching this like, you know, I know it's cliche to say one hand at a time, take it, you know, day at a time, and all that sort of stuff, but I think that's really what I'm doing here. Is just, you know, you can't win the tournament on Friday when it's a 3-day tournament. You can win it on Saturday if you get there, but I think at this point now it's just about trying to chip up, trying to survive, trying to hang on and not take unnecessary risks, and hopefully when we get it in good, and when we get it in, hopefully win our races, and hopefully when we get it in, I don't live up to my whole billing as the Michael Jordan of taking horrendous beats on the river. So without further ado, I mean, we're like still almost an hour out from Atlantic City, so I'm going to stop this recording and hopefully probably take a little B-roll footage or something as I'm approaching, but hopefully we run good today, and certainly the first goal is to cash and then take it from there. So we shall see what happens, but I do appreciate anyone who's sat here this long and listened to me ramble for the last 20 minutes. I appreciate you watching the channel and subscribing and liking and leaving a comment and all that good stuff, and hopefully we run up good today. So we'll see if we have any other footage to share later in the day as the day goes on. After I got to AC and got a second to check social media, I realized that our content creator friend from the other day also caught a hand where I doubled up with pocket sevens. That's not too notable, but this other dude across from me at the table apparently keeps mini pocket 7 cards in his wallet, and he shared them with me after the fact. So if you want to see me grinning like an idiot after doubling up, special thanks to Alex and Poker.org for allowing me to use this footage.
Wait, are those pocket 7s mini cards?
Yeah, mini cards. It goes nicely with
your actual pocket 7s.
Yeah, there we go.
Won with.
Steal them.
No, I can't. You can have them back.
Yeah, I need a superpower. But
That's a superpower?
yeah, it's a very good.
Where'd you get those? Do you keep them in your wallet? No, I know you got it out of your wallet.
I have to keep them.
Alright, so just a little update. Literally just got to the Borgata. I decided to check Poker.org. And sure enough, the day 2 seating assignments are here. So 4,524 entries, 714 players remain. Chip leader has 4.4 million, which is a lot. That's an insane amount of chips, but we had 695,000. So let's scroll down. So there we are, number 237. Slightly above average, which is fine. We certainly have enough to play with to start off. But I am curious about who will be at our table. We were at table... zooming way too much there. Table 50 we were at, so... let's see. Table 50. Feel bad for the 2 people I'm stuck between, because I'm a big dude. Let's see. Most of the chip stacks are... We got one of the chip leaders at our table. He's got 2.1 million. Whoever Gregory Himmelbrand is. But other than that, I'd say we're doing okay compared to the rest of the table. There's one shorter stack with 130. But for the most part, we are at least in decent shape. I'll do a little more digging and see if any of these guys have a Henin mob. I'm sure some of them do. So we'll see if we're up against like some Stone Cold Killers or something. But yeah, interesting update.
You don't mind if you
Jimmy, by bell. Jimmy, still 2-5.
find out in a second.
Still 2-5. Next call.
Yep.
APHI 2-5.
That's my desk.
2-5.
Nice playing with you, boys.
You too.
Well, that was good. Don't play with electronic devices while you're driving, kids. So, the fact that it's daylight and I'm driving home from the Borgata sucks, because that means I busted. So, kind of is what it is. Fortunately, we made the money. So, they actually paid more players than I thought they were going to pay, because it was something like 4,500 entries, and they wound up paying 559 players. So, with the first prize 217,000 and change, something like that. Obviously, we busted out nowhere near that. We finished 484th for a total of $886. Nice little profit of, basically one buy-in and my gas money that I spent driving to and from Atlantic City twice in a week. So, kind of is what it is. I don't really regret anything from today. It's, you sit there, wasn't really trying to fold to make the money. It's just kind of the way the hands played themselves, where, you keep looking down at 8-6, 9-4, 7-5, Jack 4, Queen 3, and so on and so forth. And somebody opens in front of you, and there's not really much of anything you can do other than just lay it down and wait for the next hand. So, a couple weird spots. I don't even want to say weird, but a couple where I played a little conservatively, and I don't know, maybe it goes the other way. There was one hand before the money bubble burst where I opened with pocket eights, opened with a min raise, and guy jams for what was about 75% of my stack had I called it. So I ultimately decided to let it go, because A, it's pre-bubble, even though you're not necessarily looking to just min cash. I mean, you are looking to cash, so there's that. But also, I could easily be dominated there. You could easily have 9s, 10s, jacks, queens. Maybe aces or kings. He plays it a little differently, but he wound up turning over ace king, so it would have been a flip. And that's part of the thing with these tournaments is, if you're going to run deep in these tournaments, you got to win your flips, and that's ultimately how I lost, but we'll get to that in a second. There was one other interesting spot when we were hand for hand, where one player, I'm in the small blind, blinds are 15,000, 30,000, and I have about 400,000 in my stack. Just because I got blinded out a couple orbits and, threw away this 50K on that one raise there. So, even though I started with just about 700, you go through it pretty quickly when, a couple orbits go by and you don't win any hands. So, I might have had a little more than 400. Maybe it was like 420, 430, but regardless. There's an open to 60 and then a raise to 180 in front of me, and I look down at ace king and I'm like, oh boy. And the guy who opened was under the gun, so I assumed he was pretty strong. I assumed the guy that's 3-betting is also pretty strong. I got ace king. We're literally hand for hand. So, do I want to gamble my entire stack here for, what might, I don't even have a pair. I just have a drawing hand. I have ace king. Maybe I'm lucky I'm up against ace queen, but I think it's very likely one of those two players has a pair of some sort. So, yeah. It's funny. You think about the World Series of Poker. You hear all these stories about the money bubble, about how people lay down kings and aces, and I'm like, is that really going to be what I'm doing here? Laying down ace king. Ultimately, I laid it down. It turned out to be the right call, because the other two guys wound up getting it in, and it was jacks against ace king. So, and jacks held up. So that guy won a nice pot, and all I really lost out of it was 15,000 in a small blind. So, kind of is what it is. Other than that, I couldn't really get a lot going. we're not really that deep. I don't really want to open and mess around with the big stack at the table, who, you know, was involved in his fair share of hands, but he also picked up hands. We got a situation where, you know, I picked up a few chips with, you know, somebody raised, you know, somebody opened, and I 3-bet jammed queens for 15 bigs or whatever, and got that through. I would have liked to call on that, but it is what it is. I don't want to just flat there and ace king comes out in the flop, and now I'm, you know, what do I do there? So I'd rather just shove there with queens, because there's not really a whole lot of post flop playability with that hand. So other than that, I mentioned earlier in the vlog about the that one hand from day one. I actually ran into the girl who took the video of it, so I'm going to put that video in now so you can see that hand.
Yeah. Wow.
Not like
chop?
this. I'll take the chop.
Not like this.
I'll take the chop.
I'm gonna move the button.
So I guess you could say after watching that hand, yeah, I'm fortunate just to survive and make it this long. The fact that I cashed it all is, you know, an accomplishment in and of itself. You know, it's a min cash, but, you know, everybody starts somewhere, right? Like, I'm not a pro. I don't claim to be a pro. I don't claim to be an ICM guy or anything like that, where, you know, like, everything I do is going to be the right play. Like, first of all, I'm very human. Second of all, I'm very dumb. And third of all, that's just not how I play. Like, I'm not studying charts. There's not enough hours in the day for that shit. And at the low stakes I play at, most players don't play that way, period. So, like, I don't really feel like it gives me any advantage to even, like, approach poker that way. So, but we did wind up getting the footage there, so that was pretty cool. So, shout out to Alex for the video. Really appreciate it. And then the hand I busted on is just, like I said earlier, you gotta win your flips. And guy opens, I 3-bet jam ace queen off with 16 bigs, and he flats, and, you know, he calls, and his 10s are good. There's no card above a 10 on the board, so you can't go deep in these tournaments without winning your flips. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And yeah, it's disappointing because, you know, if you win that race, I probably have around $1 million in chips, and then it's a little less critical. I can kind of pick and choose my spots, and we can kind of go from there. And especially, like, once the money bubble bursts and you got so many players who are just jamming and getting it in, and just, they're happy to take their mint cash and get the heck out of there, and kind of is what it is. But, you know, I feel like I feel like what I accomplished with this tournament is I showed that I can play with a higher level of competition. I guess the best way of putting it. You know, and that's not being disrespectful of the people I play regularly with, because there's certainly some very talented and very smart players there in those games. But, you know, when you're dealing with, you know, these poker series like the Borgata and, you know, WSOP Circuit or Parks or whatever, like, you're dealing with pros, semi-pros, wannabe pros, guys who have unlimited bankrolls and are willing to fire 18 bullets in a $400 tournament and all that sort of stuff. So I think the fact that I held my own there and I showed that at least I belong is an accomplishment in and of itself. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with this experience and how it turned out. Certainly we go and play again, so I know Borgata, they usually do it every season, so like every 3 months. So I'm sure when they do the Spring Open, I'll be right back there firing the Almighty once again, and hopefully we can improve on this 484th place finish for $886. But until then, I am just going to continue my long drive to the next game. So if you've managed to stay and watch this long and listen to me ramble and stare at the car in front of me, I appreciate the fact that you elected to spend your free time with me and, you know, watch this video and listen to me ramble on for 30 minutes or however long it's been. You know, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can always click that little button down there. If you know, feel free to give it a like and all that good stuff. Leave a comment. I mean, shit, like the you know, I do appreciate the feedback, and if I thought for, you know, playing in a tournament like this, I'd do something a little bit different, do like a day 2 drive-in vlog. So if you want to see more stuff like this, I'm probably not gonna do this for like the regular games I play in, but for stuff like this, and like I plan on going to play in some of the WSOP circuit stuff at Turning Stone in March. So if you are interested in that type of content, certainly tell me you want to see that type of content. And without further ado, I appreciate you guys listening and watching, and have a good day. Take care.